This video presentation has been classified by the ABC as M. It contains material that is not recommended for persons under 15 years.
As well as watching this vodcast, you can watch Good Game on ABC2 every Monday night at 9 o'clock and ABC1 late on Friday nights after Triple J TV.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the show for gamers, by gamers. I'm Barjo.
I'm Junglist.
Coming up this week, you know what they say, when you make a good game, port it.
It's an arcade classic, but can Time Crisis survive the move to console?
It's a turn-based Nintendo strategy series made famous on the GameCube and the Game Boy Advance, but can Fire Emblem survive the move to the Wii? Plus, we get our hands on a full copy of Rock Band, and we go backwards compatible with Rockstar Games.
And we'll be letting you know how to get involved with Phase 2 of the Good Game Game project. But first, can you guess the game for this week?
Here's a clue. It had a famous line, I gotta believe.
Kick, punch, it's all in the mind. If you wanna test me, I'm sure you're finding the things I'll teach ya. Be sure to beat ya. Nevertheless, you'll get a lesson from teacher. Now kick.
Port yourself to the news desk, Badjo.
It's only been a few months, but Flying Labs Software's swashbuckling MMO Pirates of the Burning Sea has already had to close some of its servers due to sparse player populations. On April 15, 7 of the game's 11 North American and European servers were disabled, initiating a mass migration of privateers and pirates to the remaining 4. In their official statement, Flying Lab Studios stated that players were too thinly spread, and that fewer, more densely populated servers will result in a better game experience for everyone. Australia's only dedicated server, the aptly named Invincible, has proven impervious to the cull, meaning that Australian players won't need to worry about switching servers just yet. In what must surely be the most mismatched pairing of the year, it has been announced that Midway Games are joining forces with DC Comics to create a crossover fighting game titled Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe. The game will face off pop culture icons like Superman and Batman against mortal combatants like Scorpion and Sub-Zero in what we can only assume will be a traditional one-on-one punch festival, possibly to the death. Neither Superman nor Batman were available for comment at the time of reporting. Activision have finally confirmed that future installments in the Guitar Hero series will include more than one kind of instrument. Activision CEO Robert Kotick revealed in an interview with American financial magazine Portfolio that future Guitar Hero sequels will include multiple instruments, including vocals, and that the extra instruments would help the game expand internationally. It's not yet known exactly what other instruments will be included, but it's expected that Guitar Hero 4 will follow in the lead of Electronic Arts Rock Band by including the option to sing, play drums, or guitar.
The Wii isn't exactly known for its superior hardware, and combined with its innovative controls, this means a lot of games have to be made in a different way for the Wii. Not so for Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn, the sequel to the massive GameCube and Game Boy Advance successes, which also happens to be made by the same studio behind Advance Wars.
It's interesting, Jung. The Fire Emblem series had a huge following in Japan, but it never really had one in the West. That is, until 2 of its characters were introduced into Super Smash Bros. Melee. One of those characters, Marth, was very powerful, so a lot of people used him, and then voila, Fire Emblem has a fan base in the West.
It plays a lot like the last Fire Emblem, and at first glance it looks pretty much the same too.
What about second glance? Sorry, continue.
You can upgrade your character's abilities and weapons throughout the game. Combat is turn-based and takes place on a grid where everyone can move a certain number of squares per turn. Units are pretty specialized. The healers are just for healing, the archers are pretty weak in melee, and the meat shields are for soaking up damage.
This makes positioning really important. One hit can take out an archer or a healer. Throughout the game, you build relationships between your characters, and this gives you bonuses. And it also affects the ending of the game depending on which one you kept alive. The story picks up where the GameCube version left off. Your country has been enslaved by the Benyon Empire, and it's up to you and your band of thieves to play Robin Hood to take from the Empire and give to the poor. It's not until you find some powerful allies that you can actually form a full-on resistance force.
And when one hero is dead, that's it, game over. And it can be extremely frustrating having a hero die on you in the last minute. Positioning your strong units to protect the weak becomes the ever-present priority. Perhaps you forgot that the enemy could shoot over a certain wall or hedge, or that a certain enemy unit could attack diagonally. These are the mistakes that can send you whimpering with your tail between your legs back to the start of the mission.
Luckily, the battles are small and self-contained, which means for the gamer who doesn't like to give up, it's tolerable. The battle save ability gives you 1 point in each battle where you can save, and you'll be thanking the gods of turn-based strategy for this one, but if you save in a bad spot, tough luck, game over.
It seems odd to me though, Badge, that they've got a rock, paper, scissors system for combat, but it really didn't have that much of an effect on gameplay.
Yeah, the way they see it, swords beat axes, which beat lances, which beat swords.
Yeah, and that really doesn't make much sense to me anyway, but my point is that it may as well not even be there. The intelligent combining of abilities kind of takes a back seat in this game to just letting your strong characters do all the work.
And for a good long while, you have one strong guy named Soth.
Just for lulz, at the start of a level, we decided not to deploy the whole party and get through the whole level with just Soth. Now, granted, he had a pretty powerful dagger, which Badger was kind enough to dye pink when I went to the toilet.
You're using a pink dagger.
And it had a funny name, thanks for that.
You're welcome.
But he only had a normal amount of potions, and sure enough, our super character got through the whole level by himself, powering through 2 bosses on the way.
But so what, John? What does this really prove?
To me, it says, yes, it's challenging, but it's challenging in an unbalanced way. They've spent all this effort on party mechanics, and you can just one-man an entire level. Now, granted, you wouldn't be able to do this in the later levels, but I tried a lot of different strategies in this game, Badge, and the one that always came out on top was called Soth Does Everything.
To me, Jung, the main difference between this and Advance Wars is that in Advance Wars, damaged units do less damage. Here, a unit on low health can still dish out the pain at top level, and this makes a huge impact to the gameplay.
What are your final thoughts, sir?
I think the game is so hard that a lot of people are just going to put it down. Only veterans are going to persist through right to the end. The game has a tutorial, but it's only integrated into the gameplay if you select easy. I don't know, Jung, I liked Advance Wars much better, but it's the closest thing we've got to Advance Wars on the Wii, so I'm giving it 6.
It has a tremendous play length, which is actually not due to its difficulty, although that does play a small part in it. And even though, in my opinion, it has a flawed combat system, look, you've seen the game, and if this kind of combat appeals to you, then the depth and the play length are very impressive. I'm giving it 7 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Good game.
Underling, what troubles you?
I cannot master the music stick. Tribal leader, teach me.
Underling, with hammers, you need not strum every note. No, not that hammer. Finger hammer. When you see note without black circle, you can hammer instead of strum. It's all in timing. This way, you hit many notes with ease.
This music stick will bring much joy to the village, tribal leader. Tribal leader, you are truly wise.
You will rock, Underling. Underling!
Good game.
Last week, we announced the winner to the Good Game game, Office Wars, and now the team down at Infinite Interactive have already started to build the game.
This means we can move into phase 2 of our plan, where we ask you for ideas about specific aspects of the game. What we'd like help with this week is what is the name of the corporation, and what do they do as a business?
Well, that's easy, Douglas.
Easy?
Yeah, Barjo Soft, and they make small plastic farm animals.
You know what, we'll add that to the list. If you head to our site now, you can see a news section where you can upload pics, ideas, and videos. There's still some game gear up for grabs, and you can gain a mentorship as well, where you can work with the developer on the project.
How about Barjo Corp, and they make small plastic pans?
The list.
Good game.
gonna be the day that they're gonna throw it back to you. But now you should have somehow realized what you gotta do. I don't believe that anybody feels the way I do about you now. Backbeat the letters on the street that the fire in your heart is out. I'm sure you heard it all before, but you never really had a doubt. I don't believe that anybody feels the way I do about you now. Yeah. And all the roads we have here are winding, and all the lights that light the way are blinding. There are many things that I would like to say to you, but I don't know how.
Ben, thanks very much for joining us here on Good Game.
That's cool.
How does this compare with like singing in front of a real live audience?
It's a bit different to be singing with a real audience in comparison to little plastic guitars, but I mean, it's all in good fun, so whatever.
What have you been up to since Idle, man?
I've been making a film, which is kind of a little bit of a horror flick, which is scary, so keep your eyes peeled. And we're working on an album, an EP album kind of thing as well.
Any kind of theme to your album?
Just music, I guess. Just the stuff that I like doing.
You're a gamer yourself, yeah?
Yeah, I've been playing lots of games. I've left school, so I've confined myself to a little room, and I'm playing Bioshock, lots of games like that, but it's hard to find one that I can consistently fall in love with. In the Idle house, I actually took my computer and my PlayStation. So like late at night, I'd be coming home and sitting with my computer and secretly killing people on Condemned and stuff like that.
Did you have to share it around, or?
No one was interested, which really offended me, but you know what, I had fun, so whatever.
I've been thinking of a name for the band. Barjo and the Pirate Pants.
I was kind of hoping we could be the Concrete Junglists.
Yeah, we'll add that to the list. What did you think of the game, though?
Well, the track list is awesome. Lots and lots of good songs. And you know, I'm not really one to jump on the mic when SingStar is out, but as soon as I saw Metallica Enter Sandman on there, I couldn't help myself. I had to sing.
They've done a great job with the downloadable content as well. Guitar Hero has a habit of releasing just 3 songs, but in Rock Band you get a whole album. They've got some funny ones as well, like the Portal song.
Those guitars we were using were far from top quality though, and they've got a nasty habit of breaking, which is one of the reasons why it's taking so long to get to Australia. I think most of those durability issues have been smoothed out though, and they're sorting out the pricing. It'll still take a while for it to get here, but at least there's progress.
Yeah, if you've mastered Guitar Hero, you're going to find the guitar side of things really easy, and the bass even easier. But I suspect that most hardcore music gamers and Guitar Hero pros are going to be more interested in the drums.
Drums force you to think differently, and it's not just the way it's presented, it's using your foot as well. For the most part, it's very rhythmic and repetitive, but occasionally there's some new stuff in it that just totally throws you. It's lots of fun though, and I think overall they've concentrated more on social fun rather than making the game hard to beat.
Yeah, it felt more like a communal effort to get through the song rather than a competition against each other. You'll make a fine addition to the Pirate Pants, Jung, but now, a cartridge affair.
Good evening, Bud Eastman reporting. Video game celebrities are renowned for their amazing feats of strength and courage, but is there a seedier underside to it all? How do we know if our peers or heroes are using performance-enhancing and reality-shifting cheat codes? Tonight, a cartridge affair helps you, the average NPC, safeguard themselves against this threat. Many don't know how to identify a cheater, so here are some telltale signs. Godlike resistance to pain, the ability to walk through walls, infinite resurrection from the dead, the ability to produce ammunition from seemingly nowhere, and finally dropping your police wanted level. With cheats like IDKFA and the Konami code circulating, authorities fear that users may be using these as a gateway to becoming a hacksaw. In an act to drive children away from cheat codes, parent group CPU have commissioned the following advertisement.
Oh, I'll never pass this game.
Hey, I know. I got a cheat code we can use.
Oh, I don't know.
Unlimited lives. God, mate, come on.
Well, okay.
Whoa, dude, so not righteous. I know games are hard, bros, but are you willing to, like, sacrifice your bragging rights over the noobs, or even erase your high scores? No way! Gnarly! So remember, gamer dudes and dudettes, when you cheat, you're only cheating yourself. And drink milk! Reports say that the government hopes these advertisements will be enough to stave off the suggested plans for legalized cheating rooms. But now tonight's next story. Solid Snake releases a best-selling cookbook and global wildlife numbers drop rapidly. Is there a connection? You be the judge.
With the fourth installment in the phenomenally popular Grand Theft Auto franchise just around the corner, we figured the time was right to take a look back at the long and controversial history of the series developer, Rockstar North. Long before they dedicated themselves to a life of crime simulations, and even before they got their Rockstar title, this small band of Scottish game makers were known as DMA Design. And the games they became famous for in the 80s and 90s were a world away from the ones they're infamous for today. The company's first game was Menace, coming out on the Amiga home computer in 1988. It was a side-scrolling shooter that was heavily inspired by the likes of arcade classics R-Type and Gradius, and was designed by DMA Design's founder and the future creator of the Grand Theft Auto series, David Jones, who coded the entire game from his bedroom. Menace achieved some market success after it was picked up for distribution by game publisher Psygnosis, and DMA quickly followed it up. This time the game was called Blood Money, another side-scrolling shoot-'em-up with some great 2D visuals and some pumping 8-bit beats. These first two games were a testing ground for DMA Design, but it wasn't until 1990 that the company would really break through into the mainstream, and the game to do it was Lemmings. This innovative puzzle game let you play God as you attempted to rescue a herd of green-haired suicidal Arctic rodents from themselves by building, digging, climbing, and parachuting them to safety. The game became an instant hit when it first released on the Amiga, and its success ensured that it was ported to every platform imaginable. Even today, the game is still being reworked and remade, with the most recent version appearing on the PlayStation Portable. With Lemmings, DMA had hit upon a goldmine, and the early 90s were all about capitalizing on it. Over the next few years, they would release no less than 5 sequels, including the festive-themed Christmas Lemmings and the appropriately titled, Oh No, More Lemmings. By 1994, it was time for something new, and DMA broke with their long-standing publisher Psygnosis to side with home console giant Nintendo. This publishing agreement would produce an important game for DMA Design, Body Harvest, for the Nintendo 64. Despite Body Harvest's science fiction setting and alien-blasting gameplay, this is probably the game that's most responsible for the future development of the Grand Theft Auto series. It gave you a free-roaming open world to explore, non-linear missions and side quests to follow, and vehicles to commandeer and control. It was like GTA in space. After Body Harvest came the game that would really kickstart the open world genre and make the Scottish studio one of the world's most successful and controversial game developers, Grand Theft Auto. Taking what they had pioneered in Body Harvest and transporting it to the urban streets of Liberty City, DMA created a game with simple top-down graphics but complex and immersive gameplay that gave you complete freedom to do as you pleased, as you built your own criminal empire from the gutter up, a formula that was popular enough to produce a sequel, Grand Theft Auto 2. But it wasn't until 2001 that Grand Theft Auto would really become a phenomenon. The third game in the series took all the carjacking, bank robbery gameplay of the original games and pulled it into the third dimension, plunking you into a massive open city and letting you do whatever it took to rise to the top of the underworld. Grand Theft Auto 3 was packed with atmosphere. It had plenty of references to classic gangster movies, starred several Hollywood actors in voice roles, and it even had its own radio stations that played some pretty catchy tunes. After the runaway success of GTA 3, DMA Design was bought out by Rockstar Games, a new subsidiary arm of game publisher Take-Two Interactive. The first thing to go after the sale was founder Dave Jones, who left to establish a new studio called Real Time Worlds, the team behind the awesome Crackdown, and the second thing to go was the DMA name, which was promptly changed to Rockstar North. With a new name and a new hit franchise on their hands, Rockstar North once again went into exploit mode, pumping out another 2 GTA sequels in 3 years. GTA Vice City took us back to the 80s, where the game's leisure-suited protagonist Tommy Vercetti had to conquer the cocaine trade in an alternate reality Miami, while the next in the series, San Andreas, took us to the 90s for a gangster rap-inspired look at American ghetto culture. With each successive GTA sequel, the core gameplay remained essentially the same, but the environments grew to huge proportions, and the number of vehicles and missions grew to unimaginable heights. Something else that was at its peak, however, was the constant controversy that surrounded not just the GTA games, but Rockstar North in general. 2003 saw the release of Manhunt, a gritty and violent game that took the player into the seedy world of snuff movies, and was promptly banned by Australia's Office of Film and Literature classification. 2 years later, and Rockstar were making headlines again, this time with the so-called hot coffee scandal. When some elite computer hacksaws discovered that the source code for GTA San Andreas contained a hidden minigame, they just had to share it with the rest of the world. Of course, the minigame just happened to be of the sexy kind, allowing you to get down and dirty with the game's virtual ladies. It was banned and then censored in Australia, and was met with a similar reception elsewhere in the world. Once again, though, Rockstar proved that any publicity is good publicity, with both Manhunt and GTA San Andreas selling truckloads. Next week, we'll finally find out if their latest, Grand Theft Auto 4, meets our expectations for both gameplay and controversy. But no matter how it turns out, with so much history to fall back on, and 2 of the biggest game franchises of all time under their belts, Rockstar Games have certainly earned their place in video game history.
Good game.
Captain Rush, it's been a while.
Try to gather as much information as possible before the VSSE agents arrive.
You're finished!
The arcadiest of arcade shooters, Time Crisis 4 blasts its way onto the PS3, packaged with new free roam areas, mini-games, and the second ugliest plastic gun we've seen in our lives.
Ah, my eyes! It burns! Ah, put it away! If you spent as many tokens as we have trying to beat this game in arcades, you can understand why we're kind of happy to have it on a console. The story is the same. William Rush, Giorgio Bruno, and Evan Bernard are sent in to investigate a terrorist threat when it all gets a little bit weird.
Request permission to use the weapon, sir.
Permission granted.
Alongside the classic and terminally short arcade mode, you can complete the game in one big saga, which includes 5 free roam missions peppered throughout the story. There are no rails in these, and they require you to use the analog sticks on the gun. Grappling with these new controls can be tough, but once you get the hang of it, it provides a refreshing change for the series.
Yeah, Jung, at first I couldn't work out whether to move and then freeze when I saw an enemy and shoot, or to move and shoot at the same time while sidestepping, but in the end I just put my knees up on a chair and did a little bit of both. And, you know, after a bit of calibration, in fact a lot of calibration, it all felt a bit natural and quite accurate.
There are a lot of movement and control options available, but I'm still left wondering how left-handers will feel about the design of the gun. And after a while, you might start wishing you didn't have this big grip attachment at the front of it. But besides all that, the action is fun, fast-paced, and exciting in arcade mode.
Yeah, but in free roam, he moves as slow as a granny with shopping bags, and no offense to any grannies watching, but you do move quite slow.
Granny similes aside, Badjo, he could have picked up the pace a little bit. Maybe they did this to keep the frame rate up or just to keep the arcade feel of the game. It definitely does feel arcadey, staying true to the original.
Action!
Display the barricade's damage meter on the screen.
Visually, the PS3 doesn't improve much on the arcade version. Some of the enemies look a bit better, but overall you're left with a bland feeling throughout the whole game. And I know it's an arcade port, but I've never seen dead bodies disappear so fast. They couldn't wait to blip out of there, John.
The fun here isn't in what you see, it's in the peripheral and how you use it. And there's no lack of enemies to shoot at. They jump out from behind crates like lots of clowns coming from a tiny car.
Almost ready for takeoff. Mission failed.
Failing a mission grants you an extra credit for your next attempt, which is nice. And the mini-games are a fun party experience. But, you know, the fun part about this game in the arcade is playing it with a mate, you know, pew pew pew. And I guess the question needs to be asked, is it worth investing in a whole second plastic gun for a short but relatively fun remake?
It's fun all around, but I found the plastic gun boring. I just thought the arcade one was better. As a Time Crisis fan, I would rather have the pedal and the top of the arcade gun moving back and forth. It makes you feel like you're really shooting. I'm giving it 7 out of 10 rubber chickens.
I'm a Time Crisis fan as well, but I think I was just a bit more glad to finally have it on a console. I'm giving it 8 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Good game.
So gamers, did you guess the game for this week? It was Parappa the Rapper, one of the first music rhythm games released on the Sony PlayStation in the mid-90s.
You play as Parappa, a rapping dog who has a crush on Sunny Funny. You had to repeat exactly a sequence of buttons that made Parappa rap. Points are rewarded for accuracy and style, but to score big, the player had to freestyle whilst still keeping in time with the music. If you managed this, you were given a "You Rappin' Cool" rating. The best song in the game was a duet with Master Onion Head called Chop Chop.
Well, that brings us to the end of yet another show.
Next week, Grand Theft Auto 4. It's hyped up to be one of the biggest entertainment releases of all time. But will it live up to expectations?
And we bring you that story on younger gamers. They're a bit too young to play Grand Theft Auto, but there's still plenty of games out there pushing these young kids' buttons.
Plus, Dark Mist and another backwards compatible. Don't forget to get involved in the Good Game project. We still need a name for the corporation and Office Wars and what they do as a business. There's plenty more details on our website and plenty of stuff on there that doesn't make it into the show as well.
Until next week, gamers, Budjo out.
Junglist out.